lovely that you wanted to do this. This was amazing.
It's a great
so
idea.
I know, very good. So we're obviously Iona and Josie, and we're going to talk a little bit today about permission to connect, which we thought sounded really cool, and we were kind of really proud of ourselves of coming up with this good theme. But before we get started, I have a little bit of a wild card for Iona, which she doesn't know about, and I'm excited because she came here today and I forgot to ask her, but this is what I really wanted to ask her. What's up with your necklace?
Oh yeah.
Like, I've literally spent the last hour going like, what's up with that necklace? There's a story about the necklace. So I thought we would start there.
You know, it's very interesting actually, when you wear a piece of jewellery, people are often like, where's that from? It's nice to have a story about it, isn't it? So I actually was gifted this in LA. I was at a Burning Man event where, everyone's gifting things. And that's giving people permission to connect, because they're saying, here's a gift, and then you say thank you. But anyway, he is an artist and makes all these little figures, and they're goddess necklaces, so it's just sort of like a goddess necklace. So yeah, I love wearing little gifts.
I really loved it, and I think and you know, like, I love your story, and I think now that I know the story behind it, this is such an appropriate question, because it really is this thing, right? You know, like, we all as human beings on the deepest level, we all long to connect, we long to belong. And we long to have this feeling of being seen, being witnessed by another, because on a really deep level, it essentially means that we're not alone in this big, wide, crazy, amazing, but also overwhelming world at times, right? And so anything we can do in order to feel like we have permission to go and say hello to someone is such a powerful thing. Just as the little thing that we just did there. You know, obviously I was attracted to the necklace, and I was like, what's the story with that? And Aaron was like, oh, Josie, I'm so happy you asked. This is so good, because now I can like share my story with you. But anyway, back to our little theme today. So permission to connect. So Iona, you were just telling me about this amazing ecstatic dance retreat that you were part hosting, part experiencing the last weekend. And you were sharing with me how much like the sense of connection, how much it's given you, and it continues to gift you and continues to like bloom and sprout within you. So do you want to share like some of the things that you cultivate in your life, and maybe some of the things that you also give other people to permission to experience through specific, like, I know you do the like playful games and all of that. So
yeah, I'd love to chat with you. And I think it's a great topic, permission to connect. Yeah, just a few things you've touched on, because you say so many amazing things. I don't like just draw them out and shine a bit light on them. But you know, there is a real need for people to belong, definitely. And yeah, we come to this planet, and you know, you're sort of born into this world, and it's all like, oh, you're there too, and yeah, so, and it's really nice to know that, you know, and humans, we have operated in tribes, haven't we? And the reason why we have become such an advanced species is because we have created together, we've passed knowledge and skills onto each other, and we work together in groups. So there is very much a tribal instinct and a wanting to belong. And we're talking about permission to connect because, well, I personally believe that that's why I'm on the planet. It's to experience connection and to help other people experience connection. And for some people, they might long for connection, but not know how to get it. Yeah. So there's a sort of mismatch between desire for connecting, but actually what they actually receive. And I think it's, you know, really the way the world is. You know, if you look at the way we're living, you know, we're living in small houses or apartments separately from each other, and you know, no one talks to each other on the tube, and then you're sort of like funneled into whatever your job is, and so life becomes a bit transactional. So in that transaction of, I'm going to sell this and you're going to buy this, or I'm providing a service for you, you know, often, you know, actually it's becoming less connected. You know, when you go to a supermarket, you're not actually meeting a person.
Oh my god, it's something when you go to eat. So if you, like here in London, right, like I remember when they're now not only cashless, but they're also counterless, right? You know, like you don't actually see a person, you just do your order online and kind of like it's delivered or whatever. I'm really with you on that whole thing. Like most of us that live in the West, and especially in the big city, we are sadly part of a community where, you know, it is easier than ever to connect, and yet we have lost connection more than ever, right? Like it is really something we have to seek out, to have this physical connections and just a little bit scientifically on that level, you know, it is one of the most restorative things we can do for our parasympathetic nervous system, which is, by the way, in charge of hormone production, immunity boosting, mental wellness, emotional wellness, physical wellness, all over. Parasympathetic nervous system is so important, and one of the best things we can do for that is to listen to the sound of another human being talking. Touch is one of the first senses to be developed within the fetus around week 7 or week 8. And again, it's that thing of like when little babies, if they aren't actually touched in the first few hours, weeks, days of being born into this world, a lot of them perish. And again, that's a fact. And yet we take that as facts for kids, babies, but then we grow up as you know, as adults, and we believe that now we should just be able to cope by ourselves. We should be okay living by ourselves. We should be okay not having those deep physical connection, not just over the phone or over the Zoom, but actually in person. And I'm just gonna randomly touch Iona, right? But like the point is like on a chemical level and on the level of like physicality, it gives us so much. And we haven't even gone into what the physical heart actually does, and the knowledge of the physical heart and the wisdom and the science of the physical heart. What happens when we feel a deep sense of being seen, being witnessed, being heard, being understood without judgment, right? So yes, we are seeking for a deep connection, right? So this is the deep thing.
Oh no, and Josie, in what ways do you feel you're helping, giving other people permission to connect?
Oh, this is amazing. That's such a good question. How do I feel I am doing that? You know what? I'm all about the small stuff. Like, so I can tell you like, oh yeah, but in terms of my work, I do this and you can do this. But actually, I'm all about everyday life. So how do I give others permission to connect? Well, first and foremost, how do I give them, it's about me giving permission to others that I see in daily life to connect with me. So in the sense of like, I will walk down the street and I will look people in the eyes, and you know, when I go into a coffee shop, I will always compliment the woman or the man who's serving me. There's always, you know, it doesn't matter whether I'm in a sauna, which I tend to be a lot in, obviously I'm Danish, whether I'm in a sauna, I'm on the tube, whatever I am, like I will look people into the eyes. I will compliment them. I will try and be helpful if I can. Essentially, I will kind of open up the door that goes, hey, I'm another human being. I would really like to connect. And that's kind of how I live my everyday life. And that's really something that kind of, that was brought to my attention like many years ago. Because in the beginning of my life, you know, I used to be a ballerina, and then I did acting and I did this and did that. And I was very kind of like, when I decided that dance wasn't going to be my main thing anymore, because I had done it as an athlete and it had been my everything. Like I left Denmark when I was 16. Like I put all my eggs in one basket, so to speak. And when, you know, when you're on such a high, meaning you're so single-minded, focused on one thing being your goal, and then when you decide, actually I want a different goal, but you don't know what that different goal is, it can leave you really like, what the fuck am I doing with my life, right? And for many years, not just trial and error, but continually going, well, what's my purpose, right? Like what actually does make me feel good? I just came to the realization that it really is about the everyday stuff. And it was about the everyday connections. And similarly to you, it was about, I also had this thing of like, so you're asking me, how do I provide tools for others to connect, or how do I add to that feeling of connection? It really is just through joy and the language of love and the language of kindness, and essentially just being like a human being and just trying to, I see myself a little bit like a fairy with a fairy duster and just like spreading a little bit of fairy dust. But
everywhere you go.
Right, but is it exactly it? And it's like, as long as I do that every day, Iona, whether that's even the way I interact, I connect with someone on the phone, even if that's a salesperson and someone I will never speak to again, I speak with kindness, I speak with love. I try and imagine them, like, what do they go through in their life? Like, they also have a family, or they want a family, or, you know, do they feel lonely? Like, I try and gaze where they're at, and I try and just give them some kindness. And I do that with everyone that I meet. And I know that you, like, that's very much you as well, right? It's not just something that it's not a jacket you put on for when you go to your event. It's like, I'm the connector! Exactly. And then you're back on the tube and you're like, oh, they'll come and speak to me, right? Right? Like, it's a full-time thing. And it's like,
and you never know when you're going to like make someo's day by just smiling at them
But that's it. Yeah.
Having a chat with them in the post office.
100%, like random acts of kindness goes such a long way, 100%. But back to our little chat about permission to connect. Let's not go too much off subject. We're going right back in there.
Gosh, well, I was just thinking about you saying all the little tiny things. I think, you know, sometimes people have these big, grand ideas of how they can change the world, make it a better place. But we can change the world by one conversation at a time. So every person you interact with, there could be something that you drop into that conversation which is sows a seed in their head that makes them want to think of their life in a new way. So yeah, in every connection, every conversation, there is room to infuse love and joy, and also just the understanding that you're talking about, being seen. It's like that point of connection can be everything for someone. Let's go back to permission to connect. And you asked me earlier on, looping back to I haven't forgotten the question. Yes, I've just come back from an ecstatic dance retreat, and oh my gosh, it was just 11:11 on the screen as soon as I said that.
Yes, I know. It was maybe we should do a little 1, 2, 3. These moments are important. It's important to take a stand, to take a moment, to take a... Oh, that was very cool. Yes, so you came back from the ecstatic dance, and I know because you sent me a message and you're like, oh my God, Josie. And I felt that, and I was like, wow, yes. And I'm so happy for you. So yes, share.
Yeah, so it was, you know, obviously retreats, a lot of them can be like meditation retreats or writing retreats. And the whole point of a retreat is just to get away from your busy life and just, you know, go have time to yourself. So it's quite interesting because ecstatic dance retreat, it's a retreat which involves dancing, which involves connection, but I kind of think connection is the medicine. So if you go on a meditation retreat, you are always going inward, and obviously really think that's an amazing thing to do, or a darkness retreat. But to have a whole weekend where you just focus on movement, something really magical happens. And so on an ecstatic dance floor, it's freestyle dancing, and a lot of people are dancing to a DJ set, and they're dancing and enjoying the movement, and there's so many benefits to that. But you can also dance with other people on the dance floor too.
Yeah.
And in that, every single person you dance with, there'll be a different dance created, because they're a different type of person, or a different song was on, or you and them were in a different mood that day. So whatever ingredients make up that particular moment, some sort of dance happens. And you know, movement is never the same. It's infinitely fascinating.
And I also love, like, just if you know, instead of, because I know that some of you are watching might be like, oh my God, but I'm not a dancer. And it's like, it's really not about the dance. Like, we can even change the name for it, and we can call it, like, you know, physical conversation, physical communication, which sounds a little bit sexual, but it's not a sexual thing. It's just this thing. It's a different language. It's a different way of communicating, right? And again, like, that's a tool that can allow you and enable you to connect with other people, but without having to go into a bar late at night and, you know, like, force yourself to walk over to someone, right? You know, and I'm not a nightclub evening drinking person. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's you, go you. I find that really, that for me, that's like, that I find that's not my natural environment. And if it is for you, brilliant. But if that's not your thing, then there are so many other ways that we can connect with others authentically, right? But again, everyone is different. Like, you and I love to chat a lot, but everyone is not. A lot of people find it really like, oh, like I feel really nervous about talking to people I don't know, right? Like, what if I say the wrong thing? Maybe English isn't my first language, etc., etc. And so having something like ecstatic dance, right, where you can just come in, you know, and you don't have to dance. You will let you boogie from side to side, you know, like, and I know that sometimes you guys, like, you do a lot of, like, you know, now pretend you're this and that, or, you know, like, how would it feel to move just from your feet? Like, it can be a let ecstatic dance as well, right? So it really is something that's available really to everyone. But I think, like, if we take it back to that, like, permission to connect. Oh yes, right?
So, you know, so on the retreat there were workshops which I led. And the workshops, I was, you know, giving people exercises and games to connect. And one workshop was actually communication, so it was chatting, and one workshop was no talking and all in the movement. And both workshops were, you know, find a partner, and in this exercise you're going to witness each other, or you're going to mirror each other, or you're going to dance with your feet, or I'm going to give you a conversation prompt and this is what you're going to talk about. So I am therefore I'm giving them permission to connect, because I've got, right, what we're going to do now is we're going to connect and everyone's going to find a partner and do it.
Yeah.
And in that, so many people, they find out so much information about other people that they would never have known before, because in normal life, we stick to small talk, or we ask the easy questions, or, you know, actually maybe in normal life, like having a random dance with someone is like a bit weird maybe in our normal modern world. So yeah, I felt by the end of the retreat, there was just so much love and connection built with people who did not know each other before the retreat. Yeah. And it just sort of gave me so much hope for humanity, that we can all become this whole planet of loving beings who all care for each other, if we can understand each other and look at each other as we're actually all sort of underneath it all. We're just all souls who have just come to earth at the same time to experience life. So yeah, it's just the magic of connection.
100%. And there's so beautifully said. And there's also this thing, like you said, you know, beneath the clothes and the you know, different mindsets and the different kind of backgrounds and skin colors, etc., etc. It's like, in the end of the day, we're souls, and we're also just little people, right? Like, we are little girls, little boys, just longing to belong, longing to find our way home, right? And it's like, you know, how can we in daily life give ourselves permission to reach out and connect authentically to the people that we do feel drawn towards? And whether that's, you know, like I mentioned, you know, like me in daily life, I give compliments left, right, and center. Or like you can also be really curious, right? It can also be a thing of like asking a question to someone, and like you were saying, it like, be courageous. You don't need someone else's permission. You know, you don't need someone else to go, hey, would you like to talk about my dreams? Or, you know, like, you can just go outside of the comfort zone. And by doing so, it's like you're giving someone else an invite to do the same. The same way if you know, if I asked Iona about her beautiful necklace, right? Like, for some reason, like, I got really curious about that necklace, and my eyes kept going there, right? It's such a simple example, but a lot of people, unless they're like really think it's the most beautiful necklace in the world, they might not have asked you. But I was like, there's a story, and I want to know the story. And there was a story, right? And so this little necklace today was our connection. And so it's like, we can do that with everything in our life, right? And it's like, you know, so often we wait for the permission from, you know, our dad or our mom, or the teacher that told us we couldn't sing, or the teacher that told us, you know, we couldn't dance, or we were too loud, or we were too emotional, or we were too quiet, or we weren't this, or we weren't that, right? And we have these kind of like ghost people in the back of our minds subconsciously, that we're somehow waiting to one day impress, right? Or we're worried that they're going to get angry with us if we fully step forward and start living from that space of authenticity and a space of like, essentially excitement, right? And so yeah, things like ecstatic dance, things like just living everyday life from that space of, instead of waiting for someone to walk over to you, can you be the person that takes the first step, right?
Yeah. I wonder if there's ways maybe people can think about this, who are watching this, like, how could they connect with more people today, and how could they give themselves permission to do that? In what way? Yeah, I mean, sometimes I have ideas that I want to do experiments, like connection experiments. I want to sort of have a sign above my head saying, you know, we'll have like free hugs. A sign exactly. Being like, talk to me. And I give everyone 5 minutes to talk to me. Or I could be in a park and then have a queue of people. It's almost like a kind of jokey or artistic way of doing it, because it's like, that is an indicator to, I want to talk to people.
Open for business. No, but this is a really important thing, right? Exactly, Jet. Like, how can we get creative in our way of essentially letting others know that we are here and we are available for chats and for hugs and, you know, whatever else we feel comfortable with, right? Because that has to start within each and every one of us. It's not, I mean, of course there are, you know, like activities like the ecstatic dance or like different meetups, you know, because then you already have something in common, something that you like a shared interest. But even something like that, like you said, you know how you buy these, like they're still super trendy, like, you know, they're still popular, like those t-shirts that has a statement on it. Well, you know, like even something like that, like maybe you're someone who was already wearing a t-shirt, like you've got a whole collection, because it kind of like, you notice that whenever you wear that t-shirt, it's kind of like an icebreaker. It's kind of like, again, it's a permission slip for others to go, oh my God, right? And some people will hate it and some people will love it, and that's completely okay, right? But I love that. Like, how can we ask ourselves in everyday life, like, how can I give myself permission to connect with others authentically? But also, like, how can I signpost a little bit to the world that I'm available for connection, right?
Because there's probably a desire to want to connect.
Oh, but this is the point.
But then
right?
how
like,
do you do it?
This is it, thing, right? Like on the deepest level, we all long to connect. Like, you know, like even the person that claims that they're super introvert and they're really solid, you know, they love their own solitude. Like, we all long to have a feeling of connection, to have a feeling of being loved and being enough, right? And so how can we make that a priority in everyday life? I think the first question is, even before we think about something practical we can do, we have to ask ourselves, whose permission am I looking for? Whose permission am I longing for? And that's like, I mean, that's really deep psychological work, but even like just on the surface level, like even when you just ask yourself that right here, right now, like who's, like, if I had all the permission slips in the world, whose permission slip am I looking for? What person in my life up until this moment have I always kind of like either been looking up to or subconsciously giving my power away to, right? So I definitely know I had a ballet teacher that really didn't like me. And part of my journey has definitely been that part of me was like looking to impress her, or looking like, oh, I wouldn't take that dance audition because shit, what if I failed, right? Then she would be right. She would be right in saying, oh, you're not good enough, you're not this enough, you're not that enough. Like, and that was my own personal journey to just be like, I'm not even in touch with that woman anymore. She said something when I was 15, right?
It's still hung in
and
your
it
brain,
still was there in as a little ghost, right? Like, oh, who do you think you are, right? And then it's like, oh, okay, wow, I don't need to do this anymore. Like, and also poor woman, you know, she probably did the best that she could. She probably said what she thought was best at the time. But for some reason, my brain decided to cling on to it, right? And it definitely stopped me from, like, not just in terms of career, but also in terms of opening up to other people, because a part of me felt ashamed, like deeply ashamed, right? And, you know, like when we have these emotions, like we all do from different circumstances, it really can block us from fully, not just going after our dreams, but from going towards those people that we do feel a sense of attraction to. And again, it doesn't have to be a sexual thing. It's just a thing of like, oh my God, this person's interesting, or I'm curious about this necklace, or I'm curious about this, I'm curious about that. But I don't feel I'm fully worthy or fully enough to go over, because what if they, like, the worst thing that can happen is like, what's that, like the person isn't interested in talking to you. It's not the end of the world, right? But for the brain, it can be a big deal, right?
So like, I'm not good enough,
right?
That's why they didn't speak to me.
Yeah, exactly. So living each day with allowing ourselves, like giving ourselves permission to, you know, to take action, whatever it is that feels exciting to us at that moment in time. Then also, how can we let others around us know that we are, you know, we are available for business, we are available for hugs and chats and authentic communication. I think even in that sense, it's a matter. Sorry, I feel like I'm talking so much, Iona. Do you want to just be like, Josie, fucking shut up? Iona's like, I've got good stuff to say. I actually, you know, it's not like I was like, hey, Iona, come on over and just sit and listen. You're going to be in listen corner today.
I think you talk equally.
Are you happy?
I sometimes think that I talk too much.
Oh, okay.
I love it when I talk less. And I go, well done.
Like, well done, Iona. Oh yeah, so anyway, starting up. Tool number 1, checking in with oneself. Whose permission is it I'm really looking for? You know, and can I just give it to me? Can I give it to me myself? I had a friend who, she sadly lost her mom, but at a good ripe age, etc., etc. So, you know, sad, but, you know, part of life. And what was really interesting is, although she was really sad, afterwards she turned around to me and she was like, oh my God, I feel like a weight has lifted off my shoulders, because she realized that she had lived so much of her life living up to this idea, these ideals that were her mom's, not hers. And the fact that her mom wasn't around anymore, as much as she really missed her, it literally gave her permission to really start to react and communicate and live her life from a space of pure authenticity of who she really is, right? And but it's such a shame, it's so sad that sometimes it takes something so big as that for us to really like be like, fuck, I can do this, right? Like, this is who I am, like owning who we are, right? So okay, giving ourselves permission. Then number 2, how can we communicate it to others? Is it that you give someone a compliment, or you ask about their cute necklace, or whatever it is, you know, or do you put a big sign on, I'm open for talks and hugs?
That may be actually, but
I like it.
Oh, actually, I've got a really good example.
Yes, okay.
I've got a friend of mine who lives in America, and he used to suffer from severe social anxiety, and you know, so therefore there was such a longing to connect, but such a block to do it. And he's now overcome that, and now he teaches people to overcome their social anxiety. But his Instagram is called Jeremy Talks to Strangers.
Love it.
And that gives him permission to talk to strangers.
Yes.
Because whenever he does, he's like, oh, my Instagram's Jeremy Talks to Strangers.
Exactly.
So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And he actually lives in America, but he came to visit me in London, and he was talking to strangers in London, and I was so embarrassed. I'd be like, oh my God, you're just talking to an absolute stranger. And every single time he did it, I'd be like, oh, I wanted to, you know, cringe. Yeah. But within about a minute, the stranger would be talking back, and then they'd be engaging in conversation. And then I would be like, oh, this is actually completely fine. Yeah. Every single time was completely fine. But it was just the instigating of the conversation with the stranger, which felt weird. And I don't actually know why we don't talk to strangers. Is it because we were told as children, don't talk to strangers? And that's sort of like in my head so much that I don't talk to strangers. But yeah, it's just a really good example of...
I think it probably is that. It's a story we were told by society, you know, about our parents and etc. And then I also think the second one is this innate belief that we're not enough. This innate feeling that we might be bothering someone if we spoke to them, right? Yeah. Whereas in the end of the day, again, the number one cause of dis-ease is loneliness. Yeah. It's the feeling of not belonging. Yeah. And so, as like in the end of the day, the changes we want to see out there in the world, they have to start in here. So if you are genuinely feeling like you would like to connect with others, then guess what? You're going to have to take that first step. Yeah. Because otherwise, how can you like
reach out?
You have to reach out, and it can be something as small as just, you know, like, oh, cold day. I mean, something stupid as talking about the weather, but whatever it is, there's always something we can make a little icebreaker on, right? Yeah. Something as small as just a one, you know, or like, oh, would you like sugar with your tea? I don't know, whatever it is, right? You can always make conversation. As long as you're totally open-minded to the fact that that person might be in a rush to get somewhere and they might not want to talk to you, and it's okay. We are nearly 9 billion people on this planet. We are part of a huge global community, right? Like, just start by start practicing your communication skills, start practicing giving yourself permission to walk over to someone that you might like to have a conversation with. Somehow you feel drawn to them, whether it's because you're wearing the same dress or the same color, or you just get like me and Iona, like just get a really nice vibe when you're around each other. You're like, oh, this feels good, and we'll just hang out here and explore that space, right? So like giving ourselves permission to start to communicate and or at least open up to having some kind of communication with someone that feels good to you. So it's not like you have to like communicate with every single person you meet, right? But like those people where you genuinely have like if I took fear away, if I knew that I'm amazing, I'm a really good person, like if I really owned that, wouldn't you just walk right over to that like hot girl, that hot guy, that cute little, I don't know, whatever, like you would walk over to the dog, you would say hello, like what would you do if we knew we couldn't fail, in the sense that the worst thing that's going to happen is that the person doesn't really respond? And is that really the worst thing that's ever happened in your life? No, it isn't, right? Like, how would life feel? And even even in terms of like, how would you walk down the street, right? Like you would walk with way more confidence, right? And because it's like, in the end of the day, the only person's approval we're ever truly seeking is our own. As long as we can start to cultivate a sense of fully accepting, fully embracing, fully loving every single part of our edges and our imperfections, then you're never really going to be fully alone, right? Because you've always got you with you. Yeah. And so, permission to connect.
I was going to say, anyone who's watching this, if you ever have to think about someone you already know or you've met in the previous years, and you haven't I really miss that person.
Yeah.
I just say, message them.
Oh my God.
And say, hey, do you fancy going for lunch? Why not?
Yeah.
So the existing connections, keep them going, and also deepen your existing connections.
Yeah.
And just live in a connected world.
Oh, 100%. And also, like, with the deepening the connection thing, she says, and grabs Iona's hand furiously. Deepen the connection. Again, really, like, with the people where you feel safe or you feel a sense of level of closeness, like, really speak about the things that is actually going on for you, the things that are actually going on in your heart, right? Like, you don't always have to be everything is perfect and everything is amazing, or and like really open up about what you're actually feeling, because again, that gives someone else permission to authentically share how what's going on for them. And usually you'll be attracted to the people that have a similar vibe as you at that time. So quite often you'll have synchronicities in life, right? There will be that thing again where you're like, oh my God, I just lost my job. And guess what? For a lot of people, that's a shameful thing to say. And guess what? The person you're talking with probably also just lost their job, or they had suffered some kind of loss, whether it was a job or a relationship or a pet dying or whatever. Like, quite often that feeling, because energetically we are attracting like attract likes, that feeling that you are currently processing and working with, consciously or subconsciously, normally you're drawing that into your life, right? So can we start to have those like way more open conversations, way more like cry when you want to cry, laugh when you want to laugh. Like, there's no right or wrong feeling. It's just a feeling. Your feeling is your healing. And I know. Did you feel that? I was like, should we say it together? 1, 2, 3. Your feeling is your healing. Oh, that was good. So I think I mean, you know me, like, I always just want to chat with you all day long. I know that Iona has to go. It's so sad, but we will be back. So permission to connect, permission to connect, permission to connect. Asking yourself, how can you connect a little deeper today? Maybe when you go out there, out of your house, or you live in your office, wherever you are, can you smile to a stranger? Can you look into the eyes of people that you see? When you are meeting people that can you actually physically hug them? Me and my friend used to do this really hilarious thing where we would call it like uncomfortably long hug. Yeah. Because we know how healthy it is, but it'd be like, are you uncomfortable? He'd be like, yeah, damn right. I'm like, okay, good. We got to stick with it. It's good for us. Get us endorphins. And it's actually my lovely mom, her friend is from Iceland. Her friend is in her 70s. She's finally realized how healthy hugging is. So my mom has always been a big hugger, and she was always like, oh. But now in her late 70s or whatever, now that she knows how healthy it is, she literally like grabbed my mom randomly the other day, and they've known each other for like 30 years. Helped my mom into her bosom. And my mom was like, seriously? And she was like, this is so good for my health. And my mom was like, yeah, I know. And she's like, okay, cool, here we go. Hug it out, hug it out. So, how can you connect today? Yay!
I love that. Beautiful. Thank you, Josie.
Thank you so much, Iona. Thank you. And yeah, any comments, anything you would like us to talk about, anything to bring up?
Or topics.
Yes, topics. Put it down in the little comment boxes below, and we look forward to seeing you guys.
Yeah.
Yay!
Thank you so much.
Bye!